So, to somewhat get more focused on what I'm talking about today, I do want to make sure you guys know, if you haven't noticed the clock yet already, we don't have groups yet, so we're not trying to release you to groups anytime. We do not have groups today. It's the last week of the month, so you guys could just get to kind of buckle in, sit down, and listen to me for a little bit. I promise I won't go too long, though. I'm talking about Joseph and his obnoxious coat. That's what I'm calling it. The Bible says something else, colorful or whatever. I think there's a play about his Joseph and the Technicolor dream coat. You guys have probably heard that story. I need to specify that it's Joseph with the obnoxious coat, not Joseph I called him the stepfather of Jesus, and people kind of gave me some looks in the volunteer meeting, because technically, like, God is his, like, actual father. But I mean, Joseph raised him, so I don't know legally where that's at, right? I don't know. But that's the Joseph I'm talking about, not the carpenter who raised Jesus, but the guy with the obnoxious coat. So a lot of us are probably familiar with this Bible story. A lot of us are probably familiar with a lot of Bible stories. But I was talking to my wife, Jocelyn, about this, that, like, I don't think a lot of us know them well enough. And I say that as someone who grew up in the church, someone who's older than you guys, have probably heard all of these stories way more than all of you, to be honest with you. But I also think, I learned them as a kid, and we have an amazing kids ministry. They do a great job. But there's some stuff in Bible stories they just don't tell you because it's not, like, age appropriate. Or there's some stuff that they just don't tell you because, like, your little kid brain, like, can't comprehend maybe the depth of this story. So I just want to really encourage you guys to continue to read the Bible and read stories and learn. Honestly, watch VeggieTales. If you're, at least start with that. I know it's not, like, 100% accurate, right? I don't think, David was a large talking asparagus. I think he was a human being. But even watch some of this stuff, read this stuff, and so I'm just going to preach a little bit just directly from the Bible and talk a little bit about one of these famous stories that you guys all probably know. You guys could all probably tell me about Joseph and the coat that he had, but I want to give a little more context. Because as a kid, even if you remember the story, maybe you didn't really get the point. I was thinking back at the different, like, Bible stories that I remember learning as a kid. And I feel like the point was always just obey your parents, which is great. I'm glad that they're teaching kids to obey their parents. But, like, as you get older, you're like, oh, there's actually a lot more depth to these stories than just obey your parents. Even though you should do that, again, don't stop obeying your parents. But what I want you guys to do is listen to this story and maybe try to identify yourself somewhere within this story. And I'm not talking about taking scriptures out of context, but I'm talking about, Pastor Miles McPherson used to go to his church years ago, and he would always say about Bible stories, read them, find God and who's on God's side, and try to be like them. See who's against God and try to not be like them. Like, in the simplest form, that's how you should be reading these Bible stories, right? So in this story, I want you to see if you can find who you should be like and try to identify where you fit kind of maybe in a story similar in your own lives. I want to encourage you to take notes. I know a lot of you don't, and a lot of you probably don't even have notebooks. Maybe use your phone, but if you do, use it to actually take notes. And if Trish or someone comes around and looks at your phone, if they see you're not taking notes, then put it away. But if you are actually taking notes or reading the Bible, please do that. Because I think, one, it probably applies to your life right now, and I don't want you to forget it as soon as we leave here. But then, two, if you don't think it applies to your life right now, then it will eventually. I promise you, I've lived long enough. I know that you will go through different seasons in your life, and you will definitely need this later. And I want you to have notes that you can go back on and remember. The third thing I want you to do is read it when you get home, okay? I'm in Genesis 37 through 45. I'm not gonna read the whole thing for time's sake and because it's 9 chapters. So this is the whole story of Joseph. I want you to read the whole thing when you get home. Doesn't have to all be this afternoon. Of course, there's a Wolves game on anyways, so you got to at least take a 2.5-hour break for that. But I want you over the next, even if it takes you a couple weeks, even if it takes you a month, read a little bit each day and get through this story, because I think God will even bring to your remembrance some of the stuff we talked about, but I think he's gonna give you stuff that I didn't even talk about. Like I said, it's 9 chapters. I'm gonna be up here for about 20 minutes, so I'm not gonna be able to get everything for you in those 9 chapters. Okay, so Joseph and his obnoxious coat, that's what I'm referring to it as. This was my plan. So I like object lessons. I like visual things that you can relate to. So my favorite race car driver was Jeff Gordon in the 90s. And he had this cool like rainbow car and this rainbow coat that was super bright and colorful. And they're selling it again because I guess the 90s are back in a certain extent, whatever. But I wanted to buy this coat and Jocelyn wouldn't let me. So if it's $150 and it's more than we probably need to spend on this coat, and it's actually probably pretty ugly. If you have your phones, you guys can Google it now, Jeff Gordon 90s coat. And you'll see it's colorful, it's rainbow, it's kind of ugly. But we're gonna take up a special offering for me to buy this coat because Jocelyn wouldn't let us spend the money on that. No, just kidding, won't do that. But that was my plan, right? Was to have a bright, obnoxious coat as we talk about Joseph and the bright, obnoxious coat. Well, since I was not able to do that, I decided to wear some bright, obnoxious shoes, okay? It's really more my vibe anyways, right? I don't have a lot of like bright, obnoxious coats or shirts. Like that's just not my vibe. But I have plenty of obnoxious shoes. And so I'm wearing bright, obnoxious shoes. So what I want you guys to do is as we read this story, and even when you read this at home, anytime it talks about Joseph's coat, I want you to think bright, obnoxious shoes. In fact, you could even picture these if you want. They got some pink on them. They're reflective. I love them, but a lot of you probably think they're obnoxious, and I'm okay with that. And I want you guys to think of Joseph and his bright, obnoxious shoes, okay? So we are gonna start in Genesis 37, verse 5, but to give you a little context, if you don't know, Joseph had 11 brothers. He's the son of Jacob, changed his name to Israel, but when they talk about the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's Joseph's dad. He had 11 brothers, but he was his dad's favorite, so his dad gave him this loud, obnoxious coat, or again, in our story, his dad loved him so much, he bought him these bright, obnoxious shoes, okay? Think of this. Joseph's dad gave him these shoes. All right, so Genesis 37, 5 through 8. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So they already hated him for the shoes. Now they hate him even more. So he said to them, please hear this dream, which I have dreamed. When we were there binding sheaves in the field, then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around, bowed to my sheaf, not sheep. And his brothers said to him, should you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and his words. Okay, pro tip. If God gives you an amazing dream about other people serving you, don't tell those people probably, okay? They didn't like that. They already hated him for his obnoxious shoes that his dad gave him, but now they hate him even more. But I wanna say this, it starts with a word from God. So this whole story, this whole thing starts with God gives Joseph this dream. It's actually 2 dreams, but he gives him these dreams about the leadership that he's going to do at some point in his life, right? So for those of you, if God has spoken something to you, maybe it was just now during worship, maybe it was at camp, maybe it will be at camp this August. If God has not spoken to you, has not given you something, then I'm gonna tell you to go home and literally sit on your bed with a notebook until God tells you something. I think God will honor that. I think he'll give you something. But I wanna say it'll start with something. God's gonna give you something. He's gonna tell you something. And it starts with that. It may not happen right away, right? But you gotta hold on to that dream, that word you get from God. As you see, he did not protect that dream. He did not take proper care, and he went and told everybody, including people that he knew, well, he should have known it was gonna upset them. So in verse 18 through 28, this is his brothers do not like his loud shoes that his dad gave him, that clearly he's their favorite, but also they don't like this dreams that he's been having. So this is what they decided to do. Now, when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Nice brothers. Then he said to one another, wait, hold on. Is it up there too? They said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say some wild beasts have devoured him. We shall see whatever will become of his dreams. But Reuben heard it and delivered him out of their hand and said, let us not kill him. Nice, man. And remember, and Reuben said to him, shed no blood, but cast him in the pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him. So he was saying that so that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his shoes. Remember, we're talking shoes now. Of his shoes, the shoes of many colors that was with him. So he had his bright, colorful shoes on him, bright, obnoxious shoes. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. They sat down for a meal. That's what you do, throw him in a pit, and then let's just sit down and have some Chick-fil-A, right? Sorry, I shouldn't mention Chick-fil-A on Sundays because you guys can't eat that today. I'm sorry. I repent, Lord. So they sat down to have a meal. While they did, they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels bearing spices, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brothers and conceal his blood? Come now, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother and our flesh. Oh, so nice. It's like, don't kill him. He's our brother, man. Why would we do that? His brothers listened. The Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. So his brothers were not being nice. They were not saving his life to be nice. They were trying to profit off of him. They're like, what good is it to kill him? Might as well sell him and get some money, right? I was a younger brother, so I was the one that was like, I feel like my brother probably would have sold me if he could have made some money off me. But I was honestly probably obnoxious like Joseph was. I was probably an obnoxious little brother, so I guess I get it. Don't look around if your brother is in the room right now. But they wanted to get something out of him, so they sold him into slavery, right? They don't kill him. So this is why I say when God gives you a dream, you have to protect it. Because the people that hear your dream, that you share your dream with, they might not appreciate the dream as much as you do. And I don't necessarily mean this in they're gonna throw you in a pit and sell you into slavery. And I don't mean you shouldn't tell anybody your dream, but I think you need to be careful because some people, even with best intentions, might say or do something that actually hurts your dream, right? They might say something like, oh, really? Like I remember when I wrote my devotional book that I didn't tell anyone because I had my own doubts about whether I could actually do it or not. So I didn't tell anybody because all I needed was one person to kind of give me a look like, really? You? And then I would have just doubted it. I guarantee you I would have given up on the project. And so I think it's so important who you tell your dreams to. I think it's important to have dreams, very important to have them, very important to tell people that support you, but you don't need to tell everyone. So I'm gonna say if God gives you a word, whether it's at camp, whether it was today, whether it's at home, whatever it is, write it down, tell trusted people who support you, whether it's friends in this youth ministry, some of the leadership, Pastor Dustin, whoever it is, tell the people that will support you, but don't tell everyone, okay? Protect that dream that God gives you. And write it down so you remember it. I don't know how many times I've had something spoken over me at camp or something, and I don't write it down, and then I forget about it later, or at least question like, oh, did he really say that? Did it really mean that? If you get a word from the Lord, especially at camp, but I mean in general, you get a word from the Lord, write it down because you want to remember that for years to come. Because it's not all gonna happen like right away, right? I think a lot of us will get a word from camp and then we come back Friday and we're like, oh, God didn't move. And it's like, well, yeah, you slept the whole day you got back. Of course God didn't move. You didn't do anything. But sometimes it's gonna be something that happens years later, as we see Joseph here. It took a while before he saw these dreams come to pass. All right, let's keep reading Genesis 39:2. The Lord is with Joseph. He was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So Joseph was a slave to his master, the Egyptian, and it says he was a successful man. Tells me two things. First of all, our definition of success looks different than the world, because I don't think most people in the world would consider him successful at this point. But the second thing is what success was that God is with him. And so when God is with you, and I believe that he's with every single one of you, you can be successful in every season of life because God is with you and helping you be successful, whether you're at the world's definition of success or not, right? The world's definition might be money or fame or whatever, but your definition of success is God is with me, so he's gonna help me be successful and do the things he's called me to do in this season right now, okay? So what does success look like for you in this season? Again, remember, I'm talking about putting yourself in this story. For you, in the season you're in right now, it might feel like you're a slave to an Egyptian, but in this season right now, what does success look like for you? Because remember, it looks different than the world. So success for you might be good grades. I know we don't want to talk about school on the weekends, but we got to talk about it, right? Because for you, in this season, you're in school. Success might look like good grades. It might look like being a good friend. I know that's maybe seems too simple, but like success when you're in high school could look like, how am I treating the people around me? What impact, influence am I having on those that God has called into my life for this season? All right, keep reading. Next verse, Genesis 39, 3-6. And his master saw the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made everything he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he, so his boss, his owner, made him overseer of his house, and all that he had put under his authority. So it was from that time that he had made him overseer of his house, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was on him that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand and did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. So he served his master well. He served God in that season. He did what he was supposed to do. He was faithful in that season, and he was blessed because of it. So in this season, what is God calling you to be faithful in? He's gonna bless that for you. So if you are giving your effort, putting your time and energy into the things that he's called you to be successful in this season, he will make sure that it was a success, right? I think a lot of us, sometimes God will give us a dream or a word or something that we want to do, and we'll look at it as like, okay, when I get there, then I'm going to be successful. When I get there, then I'm going to have what God has for me. But God has something for you in this season right now, and you need to be doing that. I'm reminded of, I think this is my only sports analogy in here. Sorry, guys. But besides talking about wearing a Nasri shirt, but Kirk Cousins, when he was first signed with the Vikings, he was asked, they thought he was like the missing piece for the Vikings to win the Super Bowl. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. But at this press conference, he said, they asked him about this, like, are you the missing piece? Are you gonna win a Super Bowl for the Vikings? And he said, I can't win. He's like, I don't know, but I know I can't win the Super Bowl today. So even though that was his goal, even though that was his dream, even though that's what he wanted to do eventually, he was focused on, what can I do today? What can I do today that maybe moves me towards that goal? What can I focus on, be successful in this season, right? What can I do at camp? What can I do in mini camps, training camps, working out, reading my playbook, getting to know my teammates, working out with the receivers? What are the things that I can do today? What are the things that God has before you right now? Because you can't win the Super Bowl today. You can't, you know, and God has definitely called you to do things in this season, and he may have called you to do big things later down the road, but you need to stay focused on what he has for you right now. Let's keep reading. Genesis 39, 11-12. But it happened about this time when Joseph went to the house to do his work, and none of the men in the house was inside, his master was married to this thirsty woman who probably needed something else to do with her time, and she was trying to get with Joseph. Let's just say that. None of the men in the house was inside. She caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. This is what I want to say about this part of the story. Some temptation you just got to run from. You just got to get out of there and not even mess around with it, right? Like, we all like to think we have enough willpower, enough strength and determination, enough self-control that we can, drugs don't tempt me. Oh, this doesn't tempt me. This stuff over here, I don't do this stuff. That's great, and I'm happy for you, but sometimes you just need to, the best way to really avoid temptation is to just not go near it and just completely avoid it and not put yourself in that situation, right? So whether you're talking about sex before marriage, drinking, drugs, gossip, right? If you're around people that are gossiping a lot, guess what you're gonna do? Probably do the same thing. And maybe you have enough self-control to keep your mouth shut, that's fine, but you don't even need to mess with that. You don't even need to put yourself in that situation, right? If you're trying to stay pure before marriage, don't put yourself in situations with your boyfriend or girlfriend by yourself, right? Invite their parents to come watch the movie with you. I guarantee you, you're gonna have a little more self-control, right, when the parents are in the room. Avoid the temptation, get away. Joseph was not like, he wasn't gonna entertain it. He wasn't going to potentially do anything. He's like, I'm just going to run, flee from the situation. The best example that I use, I do not keep ice cream in my house. I do not have enough self-control to eat. If I had ice cream in my freezer, I would eat it every single day. I promise you I love ice cream, okay? I do not keep ice cream in my house. If I'm going to eat ice cream, I'm going to get up, leave my house, and go to Dairy Queen, okay? It's extra steps, and yes, I can do it, and yes, I do it more than I should, but I'm not gonna keep it in my house. I'm not going to allow that temptation to stay there if I'm trying to not eat ice cream. So what is it in your life that you just can't keep that close? Because if you keep it that close, you're gonna fall into that temptation, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to even mess around. It's gonna be different for different people, but there might be something in your life that you need to just get far away from. You need to just avoid it, and you need to do what's best for you and not even entertain that temptation. But here's what happens to Joseph. Gets thrown in jail anyways. This is not fair. This is the point in Joseph's life. He's at a few points that weren't fair, right? Although he kind of deserved getting thrown in the pit because he was kind of obnoxious with his shoes that his daddy bought him, didn't get them for anybody else. But this he really didn't deserve. He ran the other way, and he got thrown into prison anyways. It says in 39:20, then Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. Verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph. We see that he's still with him and showed him mercy. He gave him favor in the keeper of the prison. When the Lord is with you, you have favor even in prison. Now, hopefully none of you guys end up in prison, but no matter what situation you are in, right? School might feel like prison sometimes. Maybe your home's life is not as great as you would like it to be. Even in a terrible situation, when God is with you, he will show you favor. He will give you favor. He will show you mercy, even in prison. And then what do? We see Joseph use his gifts in jail. Genesis 40:5-8. The butler and the baker of the king of Egypt were confined in the prison and had a dream. Both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with his own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of the Lord's house, saying, why do you look so sad today? And they said, we have had a dream and there is no interpreter of it. So Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, please. Joseph had a gift that even while he was in prison, that gift still operated, and he still used that gift the way God intended, and he blessed other people, he helped other people. What gift do you have that you can use in this season? I think it's easy for young people to look at gifts as down the road. I have this gift, so I'm going to music, sports, preaching, business, whatever. That's great that you have those gifts, but how can you use that now? How can you use that gift in the season you're in? Because that's great if you use it down the road. I hope that you do. But how can you use it now? And then, one, just because you're in this season, you might as well make the most of it. But then two, you can develop that gift, use it now, right? Before, there's maybe as much at stake, right? Maybe you have good business acumen and you're great at math. Help Trish out in the cafe, right? Like, go back there and you're dealing with a couple bucks versus when you own your own business and you got millions of dollars. You're like, oh, I never really learned how to budget and add stuff correctly. That's gonna be a problem at that point, right? So maybe you can do that then, right? If you want to preach at some point and be a pastor of your own church, Can you serve and speak and be involved where you are called right now, right? Find opportunities. Talk to Pastor Dustin and say, hey, Pastor Dustin, I got this 2 minutes that God gave me. I'd love to share it on stage on a Sunday morning or Wednesday night sometime. Look for those opportunities to use the gifts that God has given you in this moment, right? Maybe you think you're going to the NBA, okay? I think that's great. That's awesome. Hope you play for the Wolves. But right now, you can't go to the NBA today. You're not draft eligible. None of you in the room, sorry. Even if you're a senior, you gotta play a year in college first. New NBA rules. Not new, it's been around for a while now. But you can't go today, but what can you do now? How can you use your gifts right now? Can you encourage your teammates? Can you be a good teammate? Can you be uplifting? Can you share the gospel with the people that God put in your life right now? Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're like, you know what? I don't even know what gifts I have, right? I was that kid. I didn't know what, I was like, I can't be on stage. I can't play an instrument or sing. I didn't think I had much gifts, but there are opportunities for you to still give what you do have, right? You can be a connector, which is just say hi to people when you're here. Most of you guys talk to people anyways, some during service when you're not supposed to. But can you, before and after service, talk to people, connect with people? Can you help set up chairs? If you're an able-bodied person, you can set up chairs. If you're in this room right now, like you guys can help me set up chairs. Come in the morning. It's not that hard. They're not heavy. You guys all see the chairs. They're pretty light and flimsy, all right? You can pick up the chairs. You can help me set them up. There's a gift that you have right now that God wants to use in this season. And some of you either don't know you have a gift or you're waiting to use your gift down the road. And I'm telling you, God wants to use it now. It would be very easy for me, and I promise you, I've never been to prison, but if I was in prison, I would not be looking for opportunities to share the gospel or to use the gifts that God has given me, right? When you're in a season like that, it can be tough, but I'm telling you, in every single season, God has opportunities for you, and he has purpose for you in that season, okay? Here's the sad part about Joseph. Again, he was forgotten about. So he interprets their dreams. One guy, I think they both said they were we'll remember you, we'll tell Pharaoh. One of them gets killed, right? That was the dream was that he was gonna get killed, which is too bad. The other one gets promoted and then completely forgets about Joseph. Does not tell Pharaoh about Joseph. Here's verse 14, he says that. I'm gonna keep going a little bit here. I won't read it, but verse 14 says, remember me when all is well. And then 9 verses later, verse 23, yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Super unfortunate. But here's the thing. Man may forget you, people might forget you, people might not look out for you like they should, but God does. God doesn't forget you. God will always take care of you. God does use people, absolutely, but you can't put your hope in people. You can't put your trust in people. Your trust has to be in the Lord. I hope you guys like me. I hope you guys trust me. I hope you guys appreciate me and we're friends and whatnot. But if your hope is in me, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you down. I'm not perfect. I'm going to. At some point, I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna do something that you don't like, and it can't mean everything to you. You can't put your hope in me. Paul said, follow me as I follow after Jesus. Absolutely. But if you ever see me do something in my life that's not going after Jesus, then you have to keep following Jesus. You can't put your hope in any sort of man, any woman, any people will let you down. And if you don't feel like you're being seen, if you don't feel like you're being appreciated by the people around you, Colossians 3:23 says, do your work unto the Lord, not unto men, right? Continue to be faithful to what God has called you to do, whether the people around you notice or do anything or not. Okay, God does not forget him. Eventually, he does get promoted. 41, verse 39 through 42, then the Pharaoh said to Joseph, so Pharaoh now had a dream. The butler's like, oh yeah, I know someone that can interpret dreams. Goes, gets Joseph. The Pharaoh and Joseph interprets the dream. And the Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and as wise as you. You shall be over my house, you and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will there be one greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him in his garments, fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. So he doesn't have his dad's shoes, the shoes his dad gave him anymore, but now he's got signet ring, clothed in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He's not doing too bad, okay? So eventually Pharaoh did see his gift. He gets promoted. He's doing really well. And there's a famine in Egypt. There's a famine in the land. And the only place that has any food is Egypt because Joseph planned ahead, right? And so his brothers living in the land of Canaan, 42, verse 1 through 5, when Jacob saw that there was grain, I'm not going to read this whole thing just for time's sake, but his brothers now go to Egypt to collect grain. And Joseph has an opportunity here to really get his brothers back. And if I was Joseph, I'm a lot more petty than Joseph. Honestly, I probably would have let my brothers starve. They tried to kill him and threw him into slavery, right? Joseph is now in a position where he shows forgiveness, and he's not trying to pay back evil for evil. He tries to repay this with good. Now, he does have a little fun first. I'll let you guys read it, the stuff he does with Benjamin and the cup and all this. He is messing with them a little bit. But at the end of the day, all of Joseph's family is saved from this famine because of what Joseph stayed faithful throughout this whole season. If any point during this story, Joseph gives up, now God is bigger. He can go beyond that. He can make a way. But God was using Joseph to bring salvation to his entire family. Because through it all, God had a plan. So Genesis 45, 7 through 8, and this is kind of what it all comes down to. Joseph says to his brothers, and God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and ruler throughout the land of Egypt. It was not you who sent me here, but God. It was not the terrible things that happened to him that sent him there. God used a real bad situation to get him to a place where he could take care of his entire family. No matter what you think got you here, it was God who sent you. And I say here, I want you to, again, I hope you're taking notes or watch it back and remember in different seasons of your life, because you're gonna be in some seasons and you'll be like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. God must have left me. He hasn't. God is with Joseph, right? In the prison, in the master's house. God is still with you, and he has a plan and a purpose for you no matter what season you find yourself in, right? Some of you might be seniors, you might be graduating, you're like, I don't know what the next season is. Understand that God is with you in this next season, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, even if it seems like a tough situation, like a bad situation, no matter what gets you there, God brought you there. God brought you to this season. Some of you, all of you are at church. A lot of you don't drive yet. Your parents brought you here. Yes, I give your parents all the credit in the world for bringing you to church. I think that's great. But God brought you here. God has you here on this Sunday morning for a reason. And I don't just mean from my message. I don't just mean from worship, although that was amazing. But like the people that are here, whether it's your friends, whether it's the other leaders here, God has something for you. And I want you to live your life with that kind of intentionality. That no matter where you go, it's God that sent you. No matter what brings you to a destination, good or bad, it's God that sent you. And that's how you can have faith and trust in God's plan, because it doesn't matter, even if I make a mistake, even if I get over here because I was obnoxious about my shoes and about this dream that I had, and so my brothers beat me up and sold me into slavery, even if that's the reason that I'm here, it wasn't my own stupidity. It wasn't even my brothers. It was God using all of that to get me where he wants me to be. That's why Romans 8:28 says, Jack, you know it, Romans 8:28. Yes, that was the intern's self-proclaimed verse for the year. They picked that. Any of the other interns have it memorized? Yeah, I'm not gonna make you do it. Ben says kind of. I saw Kelsey here too somewhere. Did I see her laugh? She's trying to hide. I can't see beyond that. That's fine. That's fine. I'm sure they all know it. They all memorized it. Chelsea, you ever memorized? Just say yes. I'm not going to test you on it. Although don't lie in church. Come on, Chelsea. Okay. But that's the thing. God doesn't cause bad things, but he does use bad things. He uses good and bad. He uses it all for his plan and his purpose. Even when you are the one making a dumb mistake, like Joseph did, because I just think it was stupid to tell his brothers when they were already mad about his shiny shoes. Honestly, he probably, I'd have wore the shoes, I'm sorry. A jacket I wouldn't have worn, because that's obnoxious. But if my dad gave me shoes that were better than my brother's, I probably would have worn those. Although, dusty in the desert, man. You gotta be careful what shoes you wear in Israel. I don't know, it's dusty over there. So I probably wouldn't have worn the good shoes anyways. All right, off topic. Pastor Jim once said, he said this in a sermon probably a decade ago, and I'll never forget. He said, God will use your mistakes and turn them into part of his plan. And that was such a freeing feeling. And I mean your mistakes, like if you're trying not to sin and you fall and make a mistake, God can still use you. God can still use that. Look at David's mistake with Bathsheba ended up. That relationship brought Solomon, who built the temple, right? God can use any of that, but he can also use the mistake if you choose the wrong college or the wrong job, right? If you make mistakes, God can get you on that path. Cheesiest analogy ever, probably so overused, but GPS, right? If you take the wrong turn or miss your turn, it doesn't freak out, it doesn't stop, it just recalculates. It just says, hey, if you keep going, just take the next left. It's not a big deal. We're gonna be okay, right? And I'm gonna give some credit to Daniel McLean in the back here for this one, but he was talking about this a little bit with the interns last week, and he mentioned how everybody hates Egypt, because honestly, whenever I remember hearing this story as a kid, I was always like, okay, cool, happy ending, Joseph saves all of his family, moves them all to Egypt, they have all the food they need, but then like, you read the next part, it's like, oh, but they're in slavery, and then Moses has to free the people, right? But Daniel was saying, God used Egypt to grow the nation of Israel, right? This was a small family, kind of a big family, I guess, 12 brothers. But this was one family that God said, I'm gonna use you to create this nation that's gonna change the world. While they were in Egypt, in slavery, again, not a great situation, but God used that so that they could grow inside the protection of the world's superpower at the time. They were protected by Egypt in that moment. If they were out in the desert where they were before, they were not have been able to grow. So maybe you're in a season right now that feels like Egypt, but God is gonna use that season to allow you to grow. Okay, quick recap. Get a dream from God, protect it, keep God with you, serve this season well, flee temptation, don't quit when it gets tough, continue to serve this season well by using your God-given gifts. Put your trust in God, not man. God will take care of you. Choose forgiveness over revenge. So my final thought is this. If you weren't listening, pay attention. This is it. God has a plan, and he can get you where you need to be. So in every season, you can say it now. You can say it when you're old, gray, losing your hair. Life is good or not. No matter what got you here, it was God who sent you. And he sent you for a purpose. Pastor Sean, who works in care and counseling here, mentioned, he was with the interns the other day too, and mentioned, and he's like super smart, like got all sorts of degrees, like more than degrees in a thermometer. And he said, the cure to depression is living in purpose every day. I'm not gonna have you raise your hand if you've ever gone through depression, if you've ever thought about that, gone there. But the cure is not being more happy. It's not playing more video games. It's not watching funny movies or TikTok videos. It's living in purpose every day. And I think that's a big reason why depression is so high among younger people right now, because you can feel like you don't have purpose. Like I might someday, but what is my purpose right now? So I wanna encourage you to find purpose in this season. Talk to God, ask him to give you purpose. Hey, how can I use my gifts right now in this season? Okay? So maybe that's my first takeaway. That's my first go do ask God what purpose he has for you in this season. 2, I'm also gonna say, go home and read this story. Again, it doesn't have to be right now, it doesn't have to all be today, but over the next, whatever long it takes you to read this story. And then I want you to do this, because I like my object lessons. I think visual is tied to memory. You can remember this. Every time you see, whether it's these obnoxious shoes specifically, or any obnoxious shoes, I have a lot of bright kind of obnoxious shoes, or anyone that you're like, oh, those shoes are too bright. Or maybe it's just their clothes in general. That's usually not me. I usually black, all black on top and bright shoes. But if you see somebody wearing clothes that you think are obnoxious, I want you to remember that God has a plan and a purpose for you in every season, right? I want you to remember that. So I want you to use ugly clothes. Don't look around.